You know how people say your wedding day should be the happiest day of your life? Mine started with a scream, and not the joyful kind. 1 minute, I was in my white dress, standing in front of the mirror, trying to convince myself that I was doing the right thing. The next, I was being shoved into the back seat of a black car by my future mother-in-law, like some villain out of a twisted fairy tale. The lace on my dress scratched against the leather seats as I tried to sit up, my heart pounding. My veil had slipped, my mascara was running, and my hands were trembling. I caught a glimpse of the driver in the mirror, and my whole world spun. It was Nathan. My Nathan. The boy I'd loved with everything I had 5 years ago. The one who vanished without a goodbye. And now here he was, driving the getaway car in my wedding day abduction. My brain couldn't keep up. Just hours ago, I was in my childhood bedroom, full of nerves and doubt, trying to smile through the chaos of flower arrangements and makeup brushes. And now this. Dragged away by the one woman who'd judged me from the moment we met. "She's not marrying my son," she'd hissed as she shut the car door. I tried to speak, but my voice cracked. Nathan didn't look back. His hands gripped the wheel so tightly his knuckles turned white. "My mother always said I had terrible timing," he muttered. Violet, yes, her name was actually Violet, was already seated in the front like she was on her way to brunch, not a kidnapping. Her perfume flooded the car, sweet and suffocating. Everything about her was perfectly styled. Polished. Calculated. I should have seen it coming. The warning signs were everywhere. The way she'd smirk during wedding planning meetings. Her thin-lipped smile whenever I mentioned my small catering business. Her constant reminders that a real wife of a businessman doesn't cook, she hosts. And Richard, the man I was supposed to marry. He'd just squeeze my hand under the table and whisper, "We'll figure it out, babe." But now, with each passing mile, I couldn't help but wonder, was he part of this? "This is kidnapping," I finally said, my voice barely holding together. "Oh, sweetheart," Violet turned in her seat, her smile tight and chilling. "I'm saving you both from making a colossal mistake. Richard needs someone who understands our world. You're sweet, but you'll never belong." I wanted to scream, to hit something. But instead I sat there stunned. 2 years of twisting myself into knots to win her over. To be good enough for her son. And in one brutal moment she made it clear. I'd always been just a project to her. A test I was never meant to pass. But something didn't add up. I leaned forward. "Why Nathan?" I asked. "Why bring him into this?" Violet's smile stretched wider, like a cat cornering a mouse. "Because he has as much to lose as you do." The mountain road coiled in front of us, climbing into the dusk. No phone. No wallet. No one even knew where I was. And Nathan, my first heartbreak, wasn't saying a word. But I saw it. The way his jaw clenched. The way he kept glancing at me in the mirror. Something was off. He wasn't here because he wanted to be. He was here because Violet had something on him too. As the sun dipped behind the peaks and shadows swallowed the road, Violet's phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen, smirking. "Everything's going according to plan," she said, more to Nathan than to me. Felt a chill. Not just from the evening air, but from the weight of something bigger than me. Something dark, orchestrated, and dangerous. I didn't know it yet, but this wasn't just a wedding being sabotaged. This was a power play. 5-year-old secret crawling back into the light. And Violet. She had no idea who she was messing with. Because the moment she dragged me into that car, she thought she'd won. But she'd just woken up the part of me that refuses to be silenced. We kept driving, higher into the mountains, deeper into isolation. The sky had turned an eerie violet gray, and the headlights cut narrow tunnels through the dark. My dress clung to me like wet paper, and every twist in the road made my stomach churn. I wasn't sure if it was the altitude or the betrayal that made me feel sick. Nathan broke the silence first, his voice low and tired. "You must be wondering why I agreed to this." I stared at the back of his head, trying to suppress the 1,000 questions clawing their way up my throat. But I only said, "I'm wondering a lot of things." Like how the man who once promised to love me forever could show up as the driver on my wedding day. With her. His jaw tightened. You're not the only one who moved on. I laughed, but it was bitter and broken. Moved on. That what you call it? You disappeared. No call. No goodbye. Nothing but a note that said, I'm sorry. You shattered me. I know, he whispered, barely audible over the hum of the tires. Violet shifted in her seat but didn't wake. Nathan waited a few beats before continuing. You remember that restaurant we wanted to open? He asked, his eyes still on the road. The loan we applied for. Course I remembered. It was our dream. Plan. I got called in for a meeting with the bank, he said. Except it wasn't the bank waiting for me. It was Violet. My breath caught. She had documents. Dirt on my dad's old construction company. Stuff that wasn't technically illegal but bad enough to ruin my family. And she made it simple. Disappear from your life or she'd destroy what little we had left. I didn't know what to say. Everything inside me was screaming. Rage. Confusion. But mostly recognition. Because now the pieces were clicking into place. The rushed wedding. The pressure to sell my parents' land. Violet's sudden interest in my life. She knew about the farm, I whispered. Our land. She wanted it for her company, Nathan confirmed. But your parents would never sell to her. So she broke you. Broke us. You left town. They sold. And months later. You met Richard. Chill ran through me. That was the night we'd met. At a fundraiser hosted by none other than Violet Blackwood. It had all been orchestrated. Every step of my so-called new life. But why bring you back now? I asked, blinking away tears. Nathan's fingers flexed on the steering wheel. Because I found proof. Real proof. Not just about my dad. But about everyone she's hurt. Families. Employees. Partners. I threatened to go public if she didn't stop the wedding. So instead of canceling, she flipped the script. Made it look like you abandoned Richard. She gets to keep her image. And destroy yours. The cruelty of it all made my hands shake. Richard, I said quietly. Does he know? Nathan glanced at me in the mirror. He found out. Right before the ceremony. Sent you a message, but... He motioned to my empty hands. She took your phone. Violet stirred. Her eyes fluttered open, and with a chilling smile she asked, Almost there. Almost, Nathan said. She turned back to me, her voice honeyed but venomous. The view from the cabin is truly stunning. Especially during the day. And just like that the air turned heavy. Because in the dark, deep in the mountains, no one can hear you scream. No cell service. No witnesses. Just one woman determined to keep her secrets buried. And two people who knew far too much. But as she turned away, satisfied, Nathan flashed me a quick look. Then his hand dipped into his jacket. And I saw it. My phone. The one I thought I'd left behind. Tucked safely in his pocket. For the first time since this nightmare began, I felt a flicker of hope. He was playing her game. But not by her rules. The car finally pulled off the main road and onto a gravel path so narrow it felt like it had been swallowed by the forest. Trees leaned in from both sides, thick and silent, and the headlights bounced across gnarled trunks and tangled branches. Then, out of the darkness, it appeared. Not a rustic log cabin like I'd imagined, but a sleek glass and stone fortress perched on the edge of a cliff. Cold, isolated, and very intentional. My heels sank into the gravel as Violet yanked me from the car like I was some unruly guest, not a kidnapped bride. Welcome, she said with a smirk. This is where I spent my first honeymoon. Let's hope yours is more memorable. The air was sharp and thin up here, and every breath felt like it came with a warning. Inside, the cabin was all modern minimalism. Too perfect, too sterile. Photos of the Blackwood dynasty lined one wall. Their stern eyes watching me like I was an intruder. I caught Richard's face in one of them. Even in pictures, his smile looked forced. Like he already knew he didn't belong. Take her to the East Room, Violet ordered. And remind her, cell service is unreliable. Nathan and I walked down a hallway lined with expensive art and cold silence. The moment we were out of earshot, he slipped the phone into my hand. Battery's low, he whispered. But there's something you need to see. From Richard. I unlocked it, hands shaking. One message. I can't go through with this. Not after what I found out about Mother and Jackson. I'll explain everything. But get out. Don't trust anyone. Especially not her. Jackson. Violet's second husband. The one who died in a hiking accident 2 years ago. Is he? I started, but Nathan cut me off. Alive, he said quickly. But just barely. She got to him before he could warn you. The world tilted under me. All the signs I'd missed. The rushed wedding date. Richard's sudden paranoia. He hadn't been pulling away because of me. He was discovering the truth. Jackson hadn't tripped on a rock. He'd gotten too close. And now Richard knew. That's why she had me dragged up here. Not just to humiliate me but to silence me. Floorboards creaked in the hall. Nathan pulled away, raising his voice. Bathrooms through there. You'll want to change. I nodded, playing along. Right. I just need a moment. Inside the bathroom, I locked the door and collapsed against the marble sink. My reflection looked like a stranger. Torn dress. Smeared makeup. But my eyes were sharp. Focused. I wasn't just some runaway bride anymore. I was a witness. Threat. And the only thing standing between Violet and the full collapse of her empire. Somewhere out there, Richard was fighting to expose her. Nathan was risking everything to help. And me. I wasn't done yet. There was evidence on this phone. Somewhere in Richard's files. Maybe even in Jackson's. I had a few minutes. Maybe less. I wasn't going to waste them. I pulled up every message, every file Richard had saved. Violet thought she was pulling the strings. But she underestimated one thing. What a cornered woman is capable of. A knock at the door snapped me back. Beatrice. Nathan's voice. Controlled. Violet wants us in the living room. 'Cause it's time to discuss the press release. Course. She wasn't just ending my wedding. She was crafting the story. A bride with cold feet. A scandal to entertain the city. And a way to exile me permanently. But as I tucked the phone into my pocket and opened the door, I saw it in Nathan's eyes. He had a plan. So did I. And Violet. She was about to lose control of the one thing she cherished most. Her narrative. The fire was crackling when we stepped into the living room, but it didn't make the place feel any warmer. Violet was stretched out on the leather sofa, legs crossed like she was hosting a charity gala and not holding her ex-daughter-in-law hostage. She cradled a glass of red wine and looked me over like I was a chipped vase she regretted buying. Sit, she said, motioning to the armchair across from her. We have so much to discuss. I sank into the chair, my torn wedding dress folding awkwardly around me like a memory I wanted to shed. Nathan remained by the window, watching the driveway with quiet intensity. He wasn't just standing there. He was waiting. For the record, Violet began, swirling her wine. The press release is already drafted. Young bride disappears on wedding day with ex-boyfriend. Wealthy fiancé left devastated. A bit cliché, I know, but people eat it up. What about Richard's version? Yes. The one where he discovers his mother's secret empire built on blackmail, forgery. Maybe even murder? Her hand froze mid-sip. Just for a second. But it was enough. Jackson knew, I added. That's why he died up here, isn't it? And Richard, he knows now too. She set the wine down with calculated calm. Grief makes people say unfortunate things. And drugs make them forget. Nathan said suddenly, his voice hardening. You tried the same thing with my father. Forged his signature. Took everything. Violet turned her head slowly, like a queen acknowledging a peasant. Your father was weak. And Richard? He was headed the same way, until she filled his head with nonsense. Ethics. Transparency. Love. She spat the word like it tasted bad. Is that what this was about? Yes. You tried to mold me into someone useful, someone who'd help you control him? She laughed bitterly. I thought I could shape you. I saw your hunger, your ambition. But you had too much heart. Like your mother. That stopped me. You knew my mother. I studied her, Violet said, eyes gleaming. Like everyone I planned to remove. I didn't get the chance to reply. The lights flickered, then cut out entirely. Darkness swallowed the room. The only sound was the storm outside, and the sharp crack of Violet cursing. Then a hand grabbed mine. Nathan. Now, he whispered. We moved fast. I didn't care that I was still in a wedding dress. I didn't care that my shoes were wrong or that Violet was screaming threats behind us. We ducked through a hallway as thunder cracked above, and for a moment it felt like the mountain itself was splitting open. We weren't even to the door when another voice cut through the storm. Don't move. And just like that everything stopped. A silhouette appeared in the doorway, backlit by lightning. Disheveled tuxedo, bruised face. But unmistakably him. Richard. A gun in his hand. And one of Violet's guards unconscious behind him. No one's calling security, he said. Not this time. I stepped forward but Nathan held me back. She's not alone, he warned. And he was right. More footsteps. Flashlights cutting through the trees outside. Her men. Surrounding us. Violet stepped forward, face pale but defiant. You're making a mistake, Richard. This is madness. No, he said steady. The medication wore off hours ago. Your goons didn't notice when I woke up. But I heard everything. She smirked, regaining her edge. Who will believe you? A son holding a gun to his own mother. They'll believe the video, I said, my voice clear. The one where you confessed everything. About Nathan's father. About Jackson. About your entire empire built on fear. Her eyes snapped to my hand, still holding the phone. The one that had been recording since the car ride. You think that'll hold up, she hissed. It's still your word against mine. Not quite, Nathan said, pulling a flash drive from his coat. We have the backups. The ones Jackson made. The ones you never found. Something in Violet cracked. She lunged. Richard fired. Not at her, but beside her. Just a warning. But Nathan moved in fast, grabbing her wrist as blood bloomed along the sleeve of her designer jacket. You actually shot me, she gasped, staggered. Just a graze, he replied. Unlike what you did to my father. Outside, the guards began to scatter. The sirens were close now. Violet's house of cards was collapsing around her. Richard stepped between us. It's over, Mother. But still, she looked him dead in the eye and said, Everything I did was for this family. No, he replied, voice breaking. Everything you did was for you. The storm had passed, but the chaos was just beginning. Police lights painted the walls red and blue as officers flooded the cabin. Violet sat slumped on the sofa, her once perfect outfit stained and wrinkled, her power slipping away with every passing second. One officer read her rights aloud, and for the first time, Violet didn't interrupt. I gave my statement in a sterile room at the station, still in my ripped wedding dress, still barely able to process what had happened. Across the hallway, I could see Richard, bruised and exhausted, talking to another detective. Nathan was pacing nearby, eyes scanning the floor like he was searching for pieces of himself he'd lost years ago. Detective Yu entered the room again, her expression unreadable. There's been a development, she said softly. I followed her down the hall, and what I walked into nearly stopped my heart. Richard was seated, eyes fixed on a small TV screen mounted in the corner. A reporter's voice crackled from the speakers, serious and urgent. Breaking news in the Blackwood scandal. Sources confirm that Violet Blackwood, arrested just hours ago, was found unconscious in her holding cell after an apparent suicide attempt. My hands flew to my mouth. Is she? She's alive, Richard said, voice flat. They found a poison capsule in her ring. Even her escape plan had a plan. Nathan leaned against the window. The press is calling it the wedding day conspiracy. Everyone wants answers. Let them wait, I said. We tell our story on our terms. No more manipulation. No more spin. Later that morning, Detective Yu introduced Richard to Jackson Morrison's parents. They'd followed the case closely, watched from the sidelines, prayed someone would finally speak the truth. Richard listened, holding my hand, promising to help right his mother's wrongs. And he meant it. Over the next few weeks, dozens of victims came forward. People Violet had silenced, threatened, erased. Richard handed over everything. Flash drives, journals, recordings. Each one revealed another life she'd twisted. A legacy of fear and power, unraveling piece by piece. One morning we stood in Violet's office, surrounded by the remains of her empire. Detective Yu opened a false drawer in her desk and pulled out leather-bound journals. She documented everything, she said quietly. 30 years of secrets. There were letters from Nathan's father, files on my parents, adoption records, manipulations so deep they reached into families that never even knew her name. She kept it all, Richard whispered. Like trophies. Then he went still. His face went pale as he flipped to a journal entry. Don't, he said, shutting the book. Beatrice, please. You don't need to see this. But I already knew. He looked at me with haunted eyes. I'm adopted, he said. Jackson found out. Violet forced my birth mother to give me up. She didn't just destroy families. She built hers on lies. Detective Yu handed him a sealed letter. From Jackson. The day before he died. Richard read aloud. His birth mother's name was Claire Bennett. She'd never wanted to give him up. She'd been threatened. Later. Broken by Violet just like the rest of us. She's in Seattle, he said. I need to find her. And 3 weeks later he did. We pulled up to a small blue house nestled under a gray sky. Richard stepped out, walked up the path and knocked. A woman opened the door. Her face crumbled into tears the second she saw him. No words. Just a hug that crossed 30 years. Nathan and I waited in the car. I watched them hold each other like time had finally forgiven them. She took so much, Nathan said, his voice thick. But not this. Inside, Claire showed us paintings, all filled with tiny hidden blue butterflies. Her way of sending love across time and space. Richard looked at her, then at me. We need to share this. Help other families. Use the Blackwood money for something good. We called it the Butterfly Foundation. It helped reconnect families, fund art therapy, and expose illegal adoptions. We turned Violet's legacy of theft into something honest. And then, he asked me to marry him again. Not in a mansion. Not with fanfare. But on our terms. This time my dress was simple. My smile was real. Claire pinned my veil, whispering, "You look perfect." And when Nathan knocked on the door, he said something I didn't expect. "She's here. Violet. She asked to see you." She was thinner now. The designer suit gone. But her eyes still sharp. "I won't stay for the ceremony," she said. "I just needed to see you both. Thank you. For giving Richard what I couldn't. A real family." She handed us a box. Inside, Jackson's cufflinks. Silver. Each etched with a tiny butterfly. "I convinced myself what I did was necessary," she said. "I see now. I was just scared." And then she left. The ceremony, we said simple vows. No lies. No secrets. Just love. Claire painted us a wedding gift. 2 butterflies, wings touching. Behind them dozens more. For every life we'd helped rebuild. Later, under the stars, Richard asked, "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if Violet hadn't stopped our first wedding?" Thought about it. We wouldn't have found the truth. Or the people who needed us. We danced under a sky full of stars. Tiny lights shining through the dark. Like Claire's butterflies. Like truth waiting for its moment. In the end, Violet tried to write our story. But we took the pen back. And this time, we're writing it together. Forever.